This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 220 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, we're going to be talking about overcoming overwhelm. And this is something that I know that a lot of us have been dealing with through 2020 and again, still into 2021 with so much of the pandemic affecting the way that we work from home as not only business owners, but also as mothers and wives that are having to take on a lot more than we ever have in the past. So we are going to make sure that we cover all the different aspects of this. Before we get into that, I want to make sure that you grab my Mastering Overwhelm Blueprint. The blueprint is going to walk you through 5 steps to make it you feel and get your time back so that you can become more productive and feel less overwhelmed and more clear on where you need to put your time and energy into so that you can continue to move your business forward. So I want you to make sure that you hop over to the show notes and grab that blueprint. If you are walking and you want to DM me on Instagram at Jenny_Melrose, just put in the DM blueprint and I'll know exactly what you're talking about, and be sure to send it to you in your DMs on Instagram. You know, I am always on Instagram answering questions, and it is the fastest way to get in touch with me. So again, if you want that blueprint, make sure that you just send me a quick DM on Instagram at Jenny_Melrose, and I will make sure that it ends up in your inbox so that you can work through these 5 steps and make sure you have a clear path for yourself so that you can overcome your own overwhelm. All right, so let's really start to kind of pull this apart. The first thing that we need to talk about are what causes a person to feel overwhelmed. Well, years ago, it was that you were trying to get your kids to after school activities and also trying to do your business while your child was napping. Now we obviously know 2020 showed us that things can be a lot more overwhelming. We have been put in a place where some of us had to start crisis homeschooling. Many of us had to quarantine. We weren't allowed out of our houses. You were worried about your family members. There was just a lot more stress and overwhelm in everything. Plus, it felt very uneasy because we didn't know what to expect. We didn't have any experience with what we were going through. Now in 2021, we obviously have been in this for about a year now, and we have an idea that we can handle it. We have an idea of how we can move forward. We know what our kids can handle. We know what we can handle. And now it's about taking what we have and figuring out the right path to be able to move forward. I know that it was a trying year for many of us, and some of us put the brakes on when it came to our business. Others might have pivoted into a new form of their business of making it more online, being able to reach more people. Regardless of what your business and how it looks, now is definitely the time to be able to just overcome that overwhelm that you're possibly still feeling. So one of the first things that we need to talk about are what are the 5 emotional signs of stress, which is overwhelm, right? So signs of overwhelm are that you're irritable, you're feeling unmotivated. I have an earlier episode that came out this year that talked about how to not be complacent within your business. And I had very much become that within my own. I had talked about this in a previous episode where I made a decision when I was setting my goals last year that I was going to focus on my family because of health reasons. I wanted to make sure that I was focusing on the time I had with my kids, with my extended family, and I didn't set huge goals for my business, and I had become very complacent. And then probably about November of 2020, I kind of shook it off and realized what was happening. And I had made that decision prior to COVID. So even more so than anything else. So again, we've talked about irritable, unmotivated. You might be having trouble sleeping which also is probably coming from possible racing thoughts. I can remember a time in my business where I would describe it to my husband as I would lay my head on the pillow and it felt like a ping pong ball was going off in my brain from one idea to the next idea to the next idea. And for a long time, I believed that this was because I was so creative. And it was because I had so many great ideas that it was just hard for me to sleep because I wanted to be able to take action on all these different things. Well, really, it was because I was overwhelmed. There were so many things going on in my brain that I wasn't able to focus on which one to move me forward. So those racing thoughts and the trouble sleeping that I had was actually the overwhelm coming through. You also may have problems with your memory. This is also something that I experienced. There was a time when I was still a teacher and I was also working and had my lifestyle site, the Melrose Family, before I sold it and before we moved from New York down to North Carolina. I can remember saying to my husband, I think I'm starting to show signs of Alzheimer's. And of course, he looked at me and said, "You're a hypochondriac, knock it off." But I couldn't remember where I had left my keys. I couldn't remember if I had sent the email that I was supposed to send. I couldn't remember if I had washed my hair in the shower because, again, I had those racing thoughts when I got into the shower of all the different ideas that I had. And it was the overwhelm really pushing through. So if these are some of the signs that you are seeing and you're noticing in yourself, then it's very likely that you are dealing with overwhelm. Whether you thought it was because you were creative and so excited, that is all well and good. But you have to be able to focus on which of those ideas that are racing through your mind. Which are you able to focus on? Because if you're trying to be scatterbrained and work on all of them at the same time, it's only going to continue to get worse. So, how do we de-stress when we're overwhelmed? Well, when it comes to that overwhelm, it's really important that you find ways to center yourself. And this became extremely important because I think with kids being home and us with our families so much, we were also a bit more irritable than we'd probably ever noticed before with our families. So I'm going to share a couple quick tips with you on how you can make sure that you are trying to de-stress. And it's also a little bit of self-care for yourself. So the first one is to actually meditate. I know some people say, oh, it's too woo-woo, but meditation doesn't have to be this big thing. It can be as simple as a guided meditation with like the Calm app, or it could be just taking a couple deep breaths and centering yourself, counting the breath in and then counting the breath out and trying to clear your mind because all those racing thoughts that are again coming in is the overwhelm. So if you take the time to clear your brain space and just take those deep breaths, it's going to help you be able to focus and move forward. A second one is exercise. Whether you're going for a walk, run, or working out, or using a program, exercise actually helps you relieve stress and releases endorphins that put you in a better mood. Finding the time to fit in exercise is going to definitely benefit you. And you may find that you're better off doing it first thing in the morning, while some of you may actually find that you have more energy to do it in the afternoon. Test it out. Again, it's just like working with your audience. You have to test things and see what works best for you. Personally, I do my workout after I drop the kids off at school. There's no one in the house. Well, that's a lie. There's still my husband in the house teaching PE virtually, but there's no kids in the house to interrupt. And they even know that on Saturdays when mommy's working out in the morning, it's mommy's time. You're not interrupting. Go do your thing. Now, obviously, if you have little ones, this is a bit harder. So maybe you're going to do it during nap time, or maybe you're going to do it in the mornings before they actually get up. But that exercise can seriously help. The other one, which I always find that people kind of giggle at, and I giggled at it in the beginning, is to be one with nature. So I know that this sounds a bit woo-woo, but with this one is that you can go for a walk and actually pay attention to the sounds and you hear and the sights that you see. Watch the clouds roll by or pay attention to the sway of the trees. The first time I did this, we were up in the mountains and the kids were off to the side playing, and I was sitting out back with my girlfriend and we were chatting for a little bit, and then we both kind of got quiet, and all of a sudden we were just kind of sitting there, and she can be a bit woo-woo too, and we noticed the trees, huge trees in the mountains, swaying, looking like they were going to fall over. No leaves on them because it was fall and the leaves had already fallen. But you could just, it was so soothing. And I also since then have noticed that when I take the dog for a walk, I'll pay attention to what is flying overhead, whether those are birds, planes going by, whatever it might be. And you will find that the methodicalness of it is very soothing. The last one that I want to give you to kind of decompress is to connect with those that get you. Whether it's a girls' night or a phone conversation, take the time to connect with those that truly understand you and support you. Surround yourself with people that will lift you up. Always remember that you are the total of the 5 closest people to you. So surround yourself with those that you admire. You want the characteristics that they have, the characteristics about them that you admire, to become part of characteristics of you. You get associated with those people. You will notice that you take on certain things that they do. If they start talking about how they're doing self-development and they're reading certain books, it's likely that you're going to want to maybe pick up one of those professional development books that they're talking about on self-care or self-development, whatever that might look like for you. So I want to make sure that you truly understand that there are ways to stop feeling so overwhelmed. Now, as well as these things that you can do to decompress and de-stress, you also want to be able to feel less overwhelmed. So in order for this to happen, you need to know what you're going to focus on. And in order to do that, you have to know who your audience is. You've heard me talk about knowing your avatar and creating your elevator pitch. These things are all important for you to truly understand that you are putting your time and energy into the right things, into the right social media platforms. Your people are probably not all on the platform that you may think that they're on. There may be a new platform that comes out, TikTok, for example. And I know many of you listening are on TikTok, but guess who's not? Well, me. And I'm not on TikTok because I'm assuming, and actually know from speaking to many of you, that you're not going to TikTok looking for marketing advice. You're not looking to figure out how to grow your email list by going to TikTok. You're going to TikTok to mindlessly watch entertaining videos, whether that is recipes being created, dance videos, whatever that looks like, even funny videos. That's what you're going to TikTok for. So for me, I know that my time is not best spent creating content for digital marketing over on TikTok. So I'm going to make sure that I focus on the platforms where my audience is. I don't try to do everything. When you try to do everything, you do nothing well. You are half-assing the majority of what you're doing when you try to be on every single platform. And when you try to create content everywhere you possibly can. My best advice for you is to pick 2 platforms, get really good at it, understand it, know how the algorithm works, have a strategy in place for how you're going to interact and engage with your people, and then actually see that the stats are showing you that you are getting that engagement, that you are getting those click-throughs or sales. So when you focus that way, then once you've mastered that one, you can take on another platform or you can add something to your business. I didn't create jennymelrose.com and push out a podcast, 4 courses, a membership site, a mastermind program, and start coaching the day I launched it. It grew with over time. And as my audience told me more and more about what they needed, my offerings developed. And you always want to make sure that when you are creating those offerings and you are creating that content, that you're focusing on that one person in your audience, your ideal customer. I actually had a conversation yesterday in one of my masterminds. And one of the questions was, well, I have 2 avatars. I have one that is more advanced and can already do all of these things. And then I have this other one that doesn't quite understand how to do it yet and is on a different path. And my suggestion and actual solution for her was, no, they're one and the same. Your ideal customer is at the end of their journey where they are able to master certain things. And that's what you're trying to get your people to. You're still having that same customer, though, from the very beginning. They've just developed over time. So that ideal customer that was advanced and was able to do all of these certain things because that's who she ideally wanted to work with, she had developed over probably 5 years to get to that point. And if she had had her business at that time, she would have needed to help get her to that point. And she would have developed certain things for her, which is now what she is focusing on. You're focusing on their entire journey and being the guide to help them master it. So when you're focusing on that ideal customer, that ideal avatar, your content is all in line and you have a strict focus. You're not worrying about all of the side things that you think these people are interested in. Well, this one wants this and this one wants that, but I don't do that. Well, that's okay. You shouldn't do every single thing within your niche. You should do the thing that you're great at, that is your zone of genius, so that you are making sure that you're maximizing your time and your energy. This all goes into how you actually deal with your overwhelm. Because when you're trying to do all the things for your people, you're not doing all the things well. You're doing them, like I said, half-assed. So start focusing on that ideal customer and their journey and what it needs to look like and creating that content to attract them. Guide them on their journey. 2021, I've talked about inside my membership site multiple times, is that the focus for 2021 should be on being the expert, being the one that is going to be able to help your people get to that point. If you haven't stepped into that role yet, or if you're uncomfortable with the word expert, I just wanted you to think about yourself as a guide. You're the person that's just going to guide them along their journey. You don't need to be the hero that does everything for them. You just need to be the guide that's going to be able to help them get there as confidently as possible and as safely as possible. And we're talking about any niche for this. So if you're a DIY home decor and you build, let's say, woodworking materials, that doesn't make any sense. Hold on, let me try again. You build bookshelves or actual physical furniture. You're wanting your people to be able to do that with you, and you need to guide them. You're not going to do it for them. You're going to guide them on how to do that. If you are a nutritionist, you're guiding your clients or your audience on that journey of how they can become more comfortable with their nutrition, the things that they should be doing. You can't force their hand. They need to want to do it. So make sure that when you are talking to people, you're talking to those people that are looking for that transformation. Focus on what they ideally want to get out of it, not the things that we would say are holding them back, but more what's going to come out of it. They're going to have this beautiful piece of furniture in their home that they crafted with their own hands and can be passed down from generation to generation. There's your transformation. Your nutritionist, your transformation is she wants to feel sexy in that black dress or comfortable and healthy chasing around her kids in the backyard. That's the transformation that you need to focus on and help guide them to get to that transformation. When you do that, you will see your people are going to want to engage with you. They're going to want to start talking to you in DMs, on your comments, and you will just see the engagement that you have been hoping and dying for all along. So when it comes to this whole idea of overcoming overwhelm, it really comes down to honing in on what you need to focus on and knowing the person that you are trying to talk to when you are being that guide for them. When you're able to put this together, it's so much easier. In your focus, you will notice your thoughts are not racing. You're not feeling as stressed as you used to be. One of the biggest things that you want to break when it comes to overcoming overwhelm is you want to stop multitasking. We as women wear multitasking as a badge of honor. I could multitask like the best of the best. Well, guess who also had racing thoughts, trouble sleeping, and couldn't remember if she had washed her hair in the shower? It's because I was constantly trying to multitask. Sometimes I understand as a mom that you need to do that, but other times you need to just focus on what it is that the kids need. And then once you have them settled, be able to go and do what you need to do. Or in your business, focus on growing your email list and then look at how you're going to grow your social media platforms. Trying to do it all is not going to make anything better. So I want to make sure that you guys hop over to the show notes and get the Mastering Overwhelm blueprint, because that blueprint, again, is going to take you 5 steps to walk you through how you can really go through this. It's going to walk you through making sure you understand that avatar and the different ways in which you can focus on. Plus, I get to walk you through batching, which is a huge thing that can help save you time, energy, and just make you more all around productive. I appreciate you guys so much for listening in. If you haven't already grabbed that blueprint and you want to just send me a DM on Instagram at Jenny_Melrose, tell me that you want the blueprint. I will send it right over to you. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys so much always for listening in. For those of you that have already left a review on iTunes, I thank you so much because it has helped me get some of the best guests throughout this entire pandemic. If you haven't noticed, we have not missed a single episode in 4 years of the podcast. And that's because I was able to find amazing guests that even though they had kids home and even though they were stressed to the all get out, they still came on and gave an amazing interview with me for the podcast. And that comes from you guys leaving reviews because they're looking at that. Guests are going to go and look to see how many reviews does she have? Are they positive? Because they don't want to waste their time. That's very precious, as you all know, on a podcast that doesn't have any listeners or doesn't get great reviews. So if you haven't already left me a rating and review, I would so appreciate it. It just continues to make sure that I can get the best guests for you. And I'm telling you that over the course of the next couple months, you wait. I have some amazing guests for you guys that are just going to deliver so many different nuggets of content that are going to blow your mind and improve your business, which is the reason that you're all here. All right, you guys, I appreciate you all so much. Until next time, I will see you all then.